time for a little Q&A at the end with Kevin. So I have been a huge fan of Kevin Day's music for a really, really long time. I don't know. I think one of the early things I remember was actually this piece. Also, he wrote a euphonium concerto for Andre Thurman, um, and his Aurora that we actually played last year with Jeremy Wilson for trombone solo and octet. And he's just a fabulous, fabulous composer, and was a big help with our sifting through our composition entries for today, and some of the composition work that he's going to do with the composers here today as well. So um, please give a hearty welcome for Kevin Day.
All right, how's everyone doing? Yeah, it's wonderful to get to be here. I flew in yesterday from Toronto, which is where I live now in Canada, and so I'm super excited to get to be here with y'all. For those who may not know me, I'm a composer, conductor, a jazz pianist, and also I grew up playing tuba and euphonium, so not trombone, but very much adjacent to the low brass world, and so it's an honor to get to be with y'all for this time. My plan for today is just kind of to play a few pieces that are already out there for trombone that you may have or have not heard, and then also play off something very new and in progress that I'm working on right now. I would love to share a couple of movements of that. But yeah, we'll kind of play some music, and then towards the end of that, we'll have a lot of time for questions. So if you have questions about whatever, feel free to ask. I'll have a chair out here, and then we'll do that. Just kind of a quick background. I'm originally from the Arlington, Texas area. I grew up playing, once again, tuba and euphonium. I went to TCU for my undergrad and tuba euphonium performance. Then later moved to Georgia. I got a master's in composition at the University of Georgia, and I'm completing my DMA at the University of Miami Frost School of Music while in my first year teaching as a professor in Canada. So life has just been going all over the place, moving from place to place, but now I'm situated in the Toronto area, and super excited to get to be here and share music with y'all. Lots of my works are mostly in the wind band and orchestra world, and as Ben mentioned previously, things kind of begin to take off with this euphonium concerto that I was commissioned to write during my undergraduate year that kind of took off in a really interesting way. And I'm going to play the clip that basically changed my life and Demondre's life forever, and then talk about this first piece here. So here's a clip of that euphonium concerto from a few years ago, just for context. As you can see, Demondre has a very interesting way with words here. But yeah, this was the clip we did. And yeah, didn't expect this to go viral, but it did. It got up to 470,000 views because of Classic FM sharing it and a few other entities. And so this was what happened a few years ago with the end of that first movement of the concerto. So yeah, that's the clip that got circulated around. It was just the ending part of that movement. And so since then, it's led to many wonderful opportunities collaborating with brass soloists like Jens Lindemann, Jeremy Wilson, David Childs, and a few others. And so since this is trombones, that's what we're talking about today, I want to first begin with this piece called Ignition This was originally a piece for 3 euphoniums and 3 tubas that was written for the Hart School of Music in Connecticut. And then during the summer of 2020, I received a call from Mike Roylands, he's a tuba player here on the right, asking me if I had anything for this configuration for them to do for their recital. I told him no, but I can rearrange something. And so that's where this version of Ignition came from. There's a lot less notes in this, but still quite a challenging piece for trombone. So here's Ignition. Yeah, so really had a blast collaborating with the BSO. Low brass for that piece. And like I said, this is the clean version. Basically, the tuba euphonium version has a lot more notes, but really grateful to get to work with them. The next two pieces I want to show are pieces that are more so for like recitals. The first one is for tenor trombone and piano, and the second is for bass trombone and piano. James Marquis, who played in the BSO section, you'll hear a piece from him after this piece we're going to talk about here. But this next piece I want to show is a piece that I got to collaborate with Jeremy Wilson, who is a wonderful, wonderful player, who I had the pleasure of connecting with through Karen Kubides, who's my manager and an agent. And working with Jeremy on this piece called Sonata in One Movement was really fun. And so this piece is readily available. It's more of a recital piece, about 7 minutes long, and so lots of interplay between the trombone, between piano, and so on and so forth. So here is Jeremy Wilson's take on the Sonata in One Movement. Very challenging, and as you can see, I mean, Jeremy just he handled that piece very well, and so once again, if you're not familiar with him, you should be really incredible. This next collaboration is more recent, and this was with James Marquis of the Boston Symphony Orchestra. This is a piece called Fantasia 4, and for those of you who've been following my work for a little bit now, I'm actually working on the sixth Fantasia piece right now, but these are pieces that are sort of in looser forms and are more informed by my jazz language more than anything, and so it's been this one was really fun to work with James on, and he put together this monster consortium of about 25 of these really wonderful bass trombone players throughout various orchestras and various continents, so very grateful to Jim for this piece. But yeah, this is a fun one, and features mutes and a whole bunch of other stuff. So he did this premiere in Toronto, actually, at the Glenn Gould School, and so super excited to share this work. This is Fantasia 4. So now for something brand new, brand new, like currently being written at this moment. So I'm very excited to share that I'm being commissioned to write a work for Peter Steiner and Constance Hawk Warner. They are a husband and wife duo from Vienna. And this commission is in collaboration with the Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra, will be conducted by Robert Spano. And I'm super excited to share this new work called Departures. There's not any video because this is all MIDI and it's all new, but I'll share the music with y'all here so you can at least see the trombone part. But this is the 8th concerto I've written. And I was telling someone the other day, I'm like, after the next 2 that are planned, I think I'm going to take a hiatus from that for a while because it's just been back to back to back. But this piece will feature trombone, piano, and orchestra. Trombone and piano will be the solo instruments. And so I'll play the MIDI of this for y'all so you can hear this. I'll play movements 1 and 2 and then let you see the trombone part here. So here is the first 2 movements. There will be 4 movements of this piece in total. So basically I'm halfway done. And so I can't wait to get that going once I have some free time here. So here is movements 1 and 2 for the new piece. So as you can see, things are staying busy. I am just writing lots and lots. So at this time, I would love to take some questions. I'm gonna move this out here so I can see y'all just a little better. So give me one sec. Unravel this mic. Okay. All right. Yeah. So any questions you would love to ask? Yeah, we'd love to hear them. So. Questions, comments, concerns, anything? Yes. Yes. Once the premiere happens next May for ITF, then yes, it'll be available right after that. So the other two pieces you heard, or three pieces you heard, the music is already available to that, and so it's already out there. So, yeah. Questions? Yeah. Okay, all right. You got a microphone, all right.
What were your inspirations for the pieces?
For all of them?
Every single one.
No, I'm inspired by lots of things. I mean, part of what sort of influences me to write the way that I do is I grew up playing in wind bands. So I grew up playing in concert band as a euphonium player, then as a tuba player in orchestra, as a jazz pianist in jazz band. So I was playing a lot of music, and I was listening to a lot of music in various genres, various ways of writing, and so that was very influential for how I hear music and how I process that into into music. So I would say my playing experience has been a big part of that, and how I'm able to kind of write the way that I do. A lot of euphonium repertoire I played was very difficult, so that's partially because of my teacher. But through that repertoire, I was able to sort of, get into the scores and figure out, okay, what's going on, and from there, kind of figure out how to compose and how to orchestrate. And so, yeah, it's been a journey of self-discovery and also discovery of collaborating with people whose instruments I do not know very well. So string players, woodwind players, piano players, just trying to figure out how these things work. It's always a pleasure. So through those collaborative experiences and through my listening experiences, I think those allow me to kind of, dictate how I write in a lot of ways. Yes, Wes. Sure. Note Performer 3. Note Performer 3. I do not represent that company, but that's what I use. It's great. So, yeah, yes. Yes, sir. Yes, and to everyone who's watching, hello. Great to see ya.
For instrumentalist performers like us who want to branch out into composing, like you did, what do you recommend? We've never done it before. We're just interested in it. Just what do you recommend for someone?
Yeah, I mean, how I was first beginning was, I'm obviously very small. I started writing in high school, and I was what I was doing when I was first beginning was kind of writing arrangements of like things that I would like hear on the radio or things, particular songs I was interested in. But what helped a lot when I was first beginning this whole thing was actually just writing for my friends and writing for people I was playing in the band with or an orchestra or whoever, and their honesty and basically telling me, yeah, I can't play this, and then kind of them helping me to figure out like, what do I need to do to improve. And so I think that was very helpful, was just one, beginning small. I was writing a lot of chamber music before I started writing this kind of stuff. So beginning that way, and then writing for people I know, especially as an introvert and being someone who, was at first very shy about kind of sharing my music with the world. It was nice to kind of have a community of people that I could, trust and be able to share music with them. So that's what I would recommend for those who are just beginning. Say that again.
What are some of the things you take into account for writing for bass trombone as opposed to tenor?
Not going too high, which for that piece with Jim, I saved the one high note, like the really high note for him for the very end, that high B flat. But yeah, I try to take high range into account when writing for bass trombone. But other than that, I almost treat it like writing for tuba, like in a way, like it can go very low, it can be very versatile, and so that was my approach for the Fantasia piece. And then for tenor trombone, it's the opposite, not going too low, and also not going, I think, too high in a lot of places. Jeremy is a player that can like do that, and Peter and a few other people I've worked with. But me being, when I was a euphonium player a lot more, I was playing, my high range was not the best. I could maybe get a B flat, but I had a really good low range because of my tuba playing. So I always kind of keep range in mind. As far as technical facility, I kind of cater pieces towards the people I'm working with. If I'm working with professionals, then I can kind of do what I want to do. But I try to kind of, tweak these pieces based on who is wanting to commission them. Yeah.
As a new composer, what do you suggest to help kind of break, I guess you would call it, a writer's block or creative block?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like every composer goes through this at some point. I definitely went through this many times with lots of my pieces, and I'm never one to try to force something to happen. Like, I hit a wall and I'm like, okay, let me keep going. For some reason, my brain just like turns off, and then I can't think of anything, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just go do something else, because otherwise I'm gonna get, frustrated. So I always, when I hit a wall that I can't seem to get over for some reason, I'll kind of go do something else, kind of forget about it, go listen to music, go do whatever, and then come back to it later once I'm in a better headspace. So that's always helped me through a lot of the tough writer's blocks that I've had, especially when writing these larger pieces, all these concertos, all these, right now writing an opera, and that's kind of giving me writer's block in some ways too. So I try not to make myself compose, but I try to kind of take a step back and then come to it later. So that's just what's helped me. Yes. Dayla. Yes.
This is a bit more, I guess, of a serious topic, but I feel like this is a good place to ask as one black composer to another. How do you feel that like emerging black composers, or just maybe composers of color generally, how they can be like better recognized in like the classical musical world, which is like predominantly white? Because like when I started composing, I listened to a lot of your music, a lot of Omar Thomas's music, but there just aren't a lot of. I feel like there's so many black composers out there, but they don't have a lot of spotlight. So how do you think that can be fixed?
Very interesting question. And yeah, you bring up Omar Thomas, and he's literally my inspiration. Like, if y'all don't know who Omar Thomas is, you should. He's absolutely brilliant. Valerie Coleman is another mentor of mine. Matthew Evan Taylor, Carlos Simon. So like, I'm very grateful that I've been kind of welcomed into this wonderful group of composers, and they've been helping to mentor me as I've been getting more and more into the spotlight. The thing, this isn't a thing that can necessarily be fixed necessarily, but it's a thing of what inspires me with the composers who I strive to be, is that they're authentically 100% themselves, and they bring that to the music in such passionate ways, and they're unapologetic about it. And Omar Thomas has a piece called Come Sunday that is, if you don't know that piece, you definitely should look it up. It is an homage to the Hammond organ and to the black church culture, and has literally turned the wind ensemble world upside down. It has been really amazing. He inspired me to write my concerto for wind ensemble, which is beginning to have that same effect, and Katash Copley is coming up as well. So all this to say is just bring yourself to the music. Bring whatever influences you, bring whatever you listen to, whatever you're passionate about to the music, and other people will begin to notice that authenticity and will come to you. And so that's really what's been my experience. And I'm not really the put myself out there kind of person, but through the music I write and through being inspired by other creatives like us, it's been amazing to kind of see where that will go. So surround yourself with that community and just bring your authentic self to the music, is what I would say.
What's the fastest you've ever written a piece?
4 hours.
Really?
Yes.
How long was it?
3 minutes.
Wait. Oh. Okay.
I won't say no more. No, but yeah, I have written pieces that, 4 hours being the quickest. The longest has been 2 years. So it's also been like that huge amount of time. 2 years took me to write the concerto for wind ensemble, the piece I was referencing. And with these larger works, I tend to take more time, and just because I really want to get those right, and I really want to make sure I'm being intentional and trying to write whatever's up here and bring it to the forefront. But for some of these pieces, I can write things very quickly, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be my best. So what I have to do is, like, if I have a piece like that, then I'll go back and make sure to revise and figure out, okay, what are some things I can do differently? What are some things I can add? What are some things I can change? So that's always been very helpful to me. But yeah, it really depends. As much of a composer answer this is, it depends on what piece I'm writing and kind of how long it takes the ideas to kind of get going.
You mentioned growing up in Texas, however you currently live in Canada, correct?
Yes.
Which do you think has had a larger influence on your way of composing?
I've only lived in Canada for close to a year. I grew up in Texas, so definitely my time in Texas had a lot to do with that. I lived in Texas from the time I was 1 to, when did I move to Georgia? 22. So like 22 years in Texas, 2 years in Georgia, 2 years in Miami, and now living in Canada for my first year. So Texas had a lot to do with kind of the way I write and the way I think about music. So yeah.
So when you were writing for trombone, did you ever pick up and try to learn trombone to help assist you with that later on?
No, and that's the thing. It's like I'm not a trombone player. I'm a euphonium player, so once again, adjacent to that. But I do know some of the things that euphonium can do are not necessarily applicable to trombone. So I just have to be cautious of that whenever I'm writing that. I can't put like a string of crazy 16s or 30 seconds because it's going to require a lot of slide work to make that happen. So I try to be cognizant of technique whenever I'm working for trombone.
You mentioned Omar Thompson and Kataj Copley. We're playing Dope at our school, which, like, you know, he has all
Super
those.
cool piece. Yeah. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And like,
Yeah.
like pulling in inspiration from all of his favorite genres of music and stuff. What would you say is like some extraneous genres that you kind of like incorporated in music outside of like the traditional wind ensemble orchestra stuff?
Yeah, totally. So mostly coming from jazz, gospel, R&B, hip hop, trap, all this other stuff is influencing me. And it all began with my parents. My dad was a hip hop producer in the late 1980s to early 90s in Southern California, so he was mostly in that world. And my mom was a gospel singer from West Virginia. So that music is what I knew before I knew what band or classical music or any of that was. And so that's what that language and those chords and all of the things I learned growing up in, you know, playing in gospel churches and playing as a jazz pianist have very much influenced my writing. And so there's obviously many artists I can name, I think, that have influenced me. I think the ones that I'm very much inspired by, like right now, are like Kamasi Washington, Robert Glasper, Kendrick Lamar, Esperanza Spalding, and many others. So just there's lots there, lots of music, but all that has influenced my, like, how I approach, in particular, harmony and rhythm. Those are the two things that kind of come from that background that I grew up in. Yes.
Besides euphonium or tuba, what's your favorite instrument?
Wait, say that again, sorry.
Like, besides euphonium or tuba, like, what's your favorite instrument?
Piano, by far, yeah. And you'll hear that today. I'm gonna be in the combo that is with Marshall Jilks, and so we're gonna have some fun with that. It'll be great. But yeah, I love improvising on piano, love playing, and so that's mostly what I do now. I compose, I travel as a jazz pianist, play with groups and all that, and then I also teach. So, absolutely love it. Yes.
I'm not as interested in composing as I am arranging. I love arranging for horn sections. What connections do I need to make to break into that market?
To break into the arranging market. Yeah, so that I'm actually not that familiar with because I haven't done a whole lot of arrangements. I will say, though, for my friends who do, because I know quite a few who are arrangers, one of them was my roommate at Georgia, what helped him was sort of going to places where, you know, these companies will go. So a lot of times the Midwest Clinic, TMEA, conferences like that will have these vendors that are there, these publishers that do work with arrangers. And so a lot of these publishers are open to sort of new music and are like, yeah, like, send us what you have. And so as far as how to kind of get get into that industry, it's sort of going to where those places are is what I would suggest.
All right, we've got time for about one or two more questions.
So, if you have an idea that you want to compose for a piece, like using Come Sunday for an example, like, it's already such a great representation of, like, the black worship kind of music. If you decided, hey, I want to write a piece that also has that exact theme, would you tackle that, or since it already does a good job already, would you leave it be? And if so, how do you get those ideas out of your head so you don't accidentally write like the same piece?
Yeah, so I would never attempt to do what Omar Thomas did with that piece and with that idea. And there's been a couple of other composers who've done that too. Those pieces are just so good that I don't even want to like that's good. I don't even want to mess with that. But if I find myself kind of noticing I'm writing in similar ways or things like that, then I'll quickly kind of like go through and be like, okay, this sounds like another thing I've heard, and kind of just, you know, tweak it, change it, whatever I need to do. But for those pieces that are just, I mean, now that piece has become such a mainstay in the wind band repertoire. And pieces like Amen by Carlos Simon, like those are the kinds of pieces that like are like I wouldn't even want to replicate because they're just really brilliant works. So.
All right, and this will be our last question.
Wes, all the way in the back.
How do you make sure that you're not biased towards your own instrument when composing?
What do you mean? Can you expound a little bit?
So, like, making sure that your own instrument does not have like the melody the whole time. How do you make sure you don't subconsciously do that?
It's kind of, yeah, so I think when I was first beginning, I did that to a degree because euphonium is the instrument I knew the best. But I think as I've written, you know, more and more now, coming up on like, you know, 250 pieces later, I think now I've learned to kind of just move things around and not have everything in one instrument, but kind of spread the love around. So that kind of took some time to do. But yeah, I think now I don't really even think about that. Like I think very much as far as what is the score, what is the orchestration going to look like, versus if I gave the melody to the euphonium the whole time, which doesn't happen a whole lot. But I do love the instrument, and I love tuba, I love trombone, so I always do try to add things for those instruments to do, because I remember being in the back in the wind band and the orchestra and not having anything to play, and I was like, man, I wish I had these cool parts. And so part of that is why I write the way I do for low brass and low reeds, just to give them something to do and to practice and to be happy with. So. Well, thank y'all so much. I think we're out of time here, but it's been a pleasure to get to be here with y'all. So if you have any more questions, come find me. But y'all are amazing, truly amazing. So thank you.